Good afternoon and welcome to Finding the Joy in the Journey. I'm Gina. I am blessed to be the host of this show, as well as the Peace Circle on Monday evenings, and part of our fabulous prayer team here at New Thought Media Network. And this is Finding the Joy in the Journey. The point of this show is to do just that, to realize that joy isn't somewhere out there after we've accomplished, after we've done, after anything. Joy is exactly where we are. Spirit is right where I am. And when I know that, I can connect with it at any time. There is beauty every step of the way along the mountainside, and I will never see it again in the same way. So every day, every moment of our lives, we have the opportunity to recognize it or not. And this show is about finding new ways to do that. So I have guests come in all the time that are doing different things to bring joy out in the world. And I always ask them what brings them joy and how is it that they do what they do? How do they find it so that we can find our own in an easier way and celebrate and enjoy this life that we've been given? So today is no different. I have a wonderful guest that I am blessed to consider a friend. This individual is amazing. Okay, we have Rev Dr Bary Fleet today, and he has over 40 years of experience leading local churches, doing everything there is to do in and around them. He has his doctorate in pastoral counseling from Boston University. He's the co-founder of Crossroads Counseling Center, the founder of the Institute for Inner Magnificence. He's a best-selling author, and that's actually on his book that was also his amazing TED Talk, Move into Your Magnificence. And we're going to be talking about that, but we're also going to be talking about his new online course. He teaches at Bryant University. He's on faculty there, and he works with the Holmes Institute for Consciousness Studies, which I am a senior in, as well as Laura Topper and Michael Mangus, and several of us here are all part of that, creating, teaching, spiritual leaders to be where we need to be in the next generation. So he is an amazing man who puts his money where his mouth is. He does the work, and he is truly a blessing. So I am bringing in Reverend Dr. Bary Fleet. Welcome. Welcome to Finding the Joy in the Journey. Thank you for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I don't know how you have time with everything that you do.
This is part of the joy in my journey.
I am so grateful. And, this is, your story to me is beyond magnificent. And, this is, I didn't say it in your intro, but one of the things that you talk about in your book that is just incredible in moving to your, move into your magnificence. And it's 101 invitations to a life of passion and joy. And how beautiful is that? And they're little vignettes. So they're bite-sized, which is good for my attention span, because I can really read them and enjoy them and appreciate them. But they're around your own life and your experiences and the things that you've done, where you've gone from the person that nobody wanted on the sports team to the person running triathlons, and at 70 being asked to represent the United States, or to be at least try out and for the United States for the Olympics. Like, how crazy is that? And that there's one thing for people to have amazing things happen in their life early on, but yours just keeps getting more incredible. So if you can tell people about yourself. How are you today? Let's start with that.
So I'm really good today. I don't know where anybody else is, but right now in my world, it's 20 degrees outside and pretty cold and lots of snow. But I'm good, and I'm glad to be here. This is I always enjoy being with you, Gina. We have a long history together, and it's a joy to be in this setting with you. So thank you so much for having me.
and it's a gift to have you back. Please tell people that may not know you how that happened. How did you go from the one that nobody wanted on their team to the one that is just blowing us all away again and again?
So it all started. I was at Cape Cod. We're on vacation, and I was engaging in one of my lesser habits, and that is scrolling through Facebook. I found an ad for a sprint triathlon, and I didn't realize there was such a thing as a sprint triathlon. I only knew about the Hawaii Ironman thing, but I looked at it, and it's swimming for a half a mile in the ocean. It's a 12-mile bike ride, and it's a 5K trail run. And I thought, I know how to swim. I've got a bike. I've got sneakers. I can do this. But the backstory is that I was always the smallest person in my class until the seventh grade. Finally, Milton Pittman was the one person that was shorter than I was. But when folks would choose up sides at recess, not only was I the last one chosen, they would then fight over who had to take me. And there would be lots of negotiations. Well, if we take him, then you have to give me somebody else to make up, because I was seen as a liability, not an asset. And that's pretty much how I spent my life. I love sports, but I was just over and over again. I was had confirmation that I was no good. As a matter of fact, I played Little League. Actually, I thought it was Little League. I learned later it was the minor league of Little League. And I was in my 40s and happened to run into my Little League coach. And I did one of those things. I said to him, I said, I must have been the worst baseball player you ever tried to coach. And it's one of those times when you put yourself down and hope the other person will say, lift you up. And he said, no, Barry, he said, you were the second worst person I ever tried to coach. And he named the kid that was worse, even worse than I was. So that was kind of my athletic history. And then I'm like I say, on vacation, I see this thing about this triathlon. And the short story is that I did participate. I had my first major full-fledged panic attack in the open water swim clinic, because psychologically, emotionally, I was in over my head. Given my history, who was I to think that I could be a triathlete? Because triathletes to me were kind of the ultimate, and somebody that I had always looked up to and admired, and wished I could be like them, but I knew I wasn't. But anyway, to make the story shorter, I did finish that day. I was the oldest person who finished, and the next year I ran as a 70-year-old and finished in first place. And as a result of that, as you said, I ended up being invited by the U.S. Triathlon Association to try out to represent the United States in the World Championships in Brussels that year.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's been fun. For my 75th birthday, I decided to try an ultra marathon. It was in the desert outside of Las Vegas, the Valley of Fire. It's one of the goals that I set that I failed to complete it. My body just absolutely gave out after 22.3 miles. It was brutally hot that day. There was no shade.
In the Valley of Fire.
In the Valley of Fire State Park in Las Vegas, in Nevada. Yes. But I like challenging myself, and I like discovering what else is still in me, and I'm really passionate about helping other people, one, know that there's something magnificent in them, and I'm honored sometimes to play a role in helping people discover and claim that. And what I know is that all of us have a magnificence in us. It's the God seed. It's whatever language you want to use, but there is something absolutely sacred and amazing and wonderful in us. But for most of us, our life experiences have covered that up. One of my favorite studies comes from the University of Iowa. The average 2-year-old, according to this study, hears the word no 400 times a day and gets positive affirmation 12 times a day. And when you think about what the average 2-year-old is doing, They're being themselves. They're just being themselves and exploring the world. But when you get told no, 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 you begin to think there's something wrong with you. And you start believing that story about yourself, and that magnificence that's in us, that childlike curiosity and innocence and magnificence gets covered up. And we start then presenting to the world layers of protection from the ways that we have been hurt emotionally. If you watch my TED Talk, I'll tell the story of I was a kid that loved school. I couldn't wait to start school. And in the second grade, the school burned down. And I was standing watching the fire, and I was close enough, I could feel the heat from the building. And I didn't realize it at the time, but there were just silent tears just running down the side of my face. And some of the big kids, that's like the third and fourth graders, came up and said, "Bary, why are you crying?" And with all the sincerity of my heart, I said, "We're not going to have school tomorrow." My world was literally going up in smoke. And they all laughed at me. Like, "Yeah, no, maybe we'll never have school again. The school's burned down. We can't go back to school. And this is the most wonderful thing." And I realized with years of therapy later that I made a decision that day as that little 6-year-old boy, don't ever tell anybody how you really feel, because if you do, they'll laugh at you. And we do that. We get emotionally hurt and we build up a callus to protect ourselves from being hurt like that again. And then we go through life with all these calluses that we show the world our hardened side. We show the world all of our protections, and we hide even from ourselves the magnificence that's in us. So what I know for me is that I needed somebody else to see that magnificence. So after I signed up for the triathlon, I was I'm a big sports nut, watching television. My wife says if it has a ball or a puck, I'll watch it. But I was watching Spartan racing, which ironically doesn't have a ball or a puck. It's about running and all kinds of physical challenges. And I was really intrigued by the athleticism of these individuals. And I knew that my coach, my trainer at the gym, had done some of those events. And so one day I pulled her aside and I said, "Heather, you know me. You've seen me for a few months. Do you think this is something I could ever possibly do?" And her eyes lit up and she said, "Not only can you, you're going to, and here's the plan. You're going to do the Beast in April, and you're going to do the Super in August, and you're going to celebrate your 70th birthday at Fenway Park by completing the sprint and the Spartan trifecta." And my stomach just churned, because she didn't understand. I was asking a hypothetical question, and she took me seriously. But because she believed in me, she said, "Trust me, I will train you, and you can do this." And sometimes it takes somebody else seeing the potential in us, seeing the magnificence in us, and holding that vision of us until we can finally claim it for our own. And I've had people do that for me, and that's my passion about being able to do that for other people and help them know that we all have it in us. We just need somebody to see it and encourage us, and to develop a plan, help us develop a plan so that we can experience it.
Absolutely. And one of the things I'm going to mention, and I will mention it again later, this is actually your book cover, and Move Into Your Magnificence. And it is available on Amazon, and it's available on Kindle as well. I just want to mention that for people. But I also wanted to just mention that you're going to be at CSL Greater Boston the end of the month. You're going to be doing the service at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and there's a workshop on your book that is the science of success that goes around that. And that's going to be at 11:30, and that's via Zoom or in person. So if you're in the Boston area, and it's in Medford, Massachusetts, or you can do it via Zoom, and it's 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and people can reach out to Dr. Bary right on his directly, or you can always reach out to me as well. And again, I will bring that up as well. but it goes hand in hand with your book as well as your course that's coming up. So I want to make sure we mention that.
Yeah, well, thank you. So along my way, I've just been so blessed and had so many amazing experiences. And one of those was to be able to spend some time with Jack Canfield, actually in his home for a couple of days and talking about my work and talking about his work. And you might know that he.
I just want you to pause for a second and just have people hear that again. Yes, he spent a few days in his home. He and his wife spent a few days in Jack Canfield's home, and he wrote the foreword of your book.
Yes, he was great. He refers to them as spiritual vitamins, spiritual vitamins. So the thing about my book is it's not intended to be you start at the beginning and read through it. It's intended to it's written in small chunks, and it's intended to read a chunk and then think about it and see how it might apply to you. I had a friend who very lovingly said it makes good bathroom reading. What she was saying
that is a compliment, and I've been told the same thing about my poetry book, so don't feel so bad. They do mean it as a compliment.
It's sort of the modern day Reader's Digest. They're small articles you can read in about that amount of time and not interrupt the rest of your day.
So funny.
But in working with Jack Canfield and his success principles, what he has been able to articulate and I have adopted is the awareness that success, there's a science. We practice science of mind. We're in the science of mind community. And success, there's a science to it. And it's like, and I'll talk about this in my workshop, it's like a key to a lock. The lock doesn't care who's turning the key. All it cares about is whether or not the key gets turned. And it doesn't matter who's holding the key. If the key gets in the lock and turned, the lock will unlock. Success is that way too. There's a science to it. There are principles that if you work the principles, you get success. It's a scientific formula. And it doesn't matter if you know what the principles are or not, because there are a lot of people that don't know what they're doing in terms of principles, but they're working the principles, and that's why they're having success. So what I'm going to talk about in the workshop, I'm not going to give too much away, but it's learning what you can control and what you have to control in order to be successful. And whether we're talking about success business-wise, whether we're talking about success relationships, whether we're talking about success health-wise, any aspect of our lives where we would like to feel more successful, these principles work. And that's what I'll be teaching and sharing on the 27th with you all in Boston.
Which I'm very excited about. And it is, we teach the science of mind. It is about knowing and using the principles. They don't vary from person to person. It's just that some are using them consciously and some of us aren't. And it's being mindful that, okay, well, if I change my thinking, if I change my actions, therefore it changes. Life changes. It's not magic. It's not luck. It is law. And it's using those laws. So it's a wonderful thing. If you've been in this teaching for years, it's a great reminder. And if you haven't, it's a great way to begin and know. So I'm definitely looking forward to that myself. So let's talk about, because time flies by, and I'd love to talk about your new course that you've got started. Your life, 28 ways to move from mundane to magnificence. How wonderful is that? If you want to go to bed at night and say, I feel good about being me, then this course is for you. How wonderful. What a great title.
Thank you. I just recently had the image. I was talking to somebody and they said, I feel like a toothpaste tube and all the toothpaste has been squeezed out of me and there's nothing left in me. I just feel empty. And I know that feeling. And I know that a lot of people can relate to that. And, I always heard you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube once you squeeze it out. But what you can do is open up the other end and refill it.
I like that.
And so that's what I have tried to do with this video course that I've created, because a lot of us we just go from day to day to day, and it our lives feel mundane. They don't feel important. Um, I really several years ago when I first started my book, there was a great fascination with zombies and The Walking Dead, and I realized that was a reflection of the culture. There's so many people that are walking, but they're dead inside.
Yes.
And I want people to know there's a life to be had, that we don't have to just go through the motions and let life run us. We can actually take charge of our lives, and we can create a life that feels magnificent, that feels good. And your byline there, um, I, all of my stories end with an invitation to action. And along with that invitation, there's a guarantee that the extent to which you accept my invitation is the extent to which you'll be able to say, I feel good about being me.
Yes. And the
So,
questions that you ask, I love this. You're because as a life coach, I've been a life coach at this point for over 15 years. Is your life rich and full, or is it nagging feeling that something is missing? Do you live with joy, or are you feeling drudgery? Are you living a heroic life or an ordinary life? Are you in charge of your life, or is your life in charge of you? And the course offers 28 invitations to move into your magnificence and become the best version of you. And the best part of that is it's not about becoming anyone else. It's just recognizing the beauty you've been hiding all along. And I love that reminder that there's nothing that needs to change except what we show the world.
and what we feel inside ourselves, it's tapping into that. And if you watch my TEDx talk, I use the analogy of a geode that on the outside just looks like an ordinary rock. But for somebody that knows rocks, they know that inside that rock, there's something beautiful, something magnificent. And it's just a matter of opening it up and exposing it to the world. And I also don't want to go too far past because I talk about are you living a mundane life or a heroic life? I want to put in a plug for my men's group. I'm hosting a men's group via Zoom every Sunday night at 8 o'clock. We meet for an hour, a little over an hour, and we talk about the heroic journey, because I believe that every story needs a hero. And I think that we need to be the heroes of our own lives. It's true also for women, but particularly for men. I don't think men have as many opportunities as women naturally have to talk about real things, stuff beyond the sports and the weather.
There are a lot of different programs for women, especially as we move, in the current day that we live in, that we have come together, and it is a very different than it used to be. But you're right, men don't necessarily have the same opportunities, and you give that. Your website, which I'm going to put up again, people can go there and they can find out about it. And you speak and write in a way that is definitely available for both. And I I know that that's not always the case. So I want to make sure that to our male listeners or viewers, just making sure that they know that this is a wonderful resource to look into. Because the last time you were here, we talked about that in more detail. So I want to encourage people, they're still available. Go back to YouTube and you can type in, the joy is in the journey. And it was actually I added the finding since then. So it was under Joy in the Journey and Dr. Bary Fleet, and you'll be able to find that last episode that goes into a little bit more detail about that course that is wonderful, that group that truly does give that opportunity for a different part of the male voice to be heard.
Yeah, I think it's so important. I know that there are a lot of good men out there in the world, but I don't see a lot of them. They're not, well, a lot of the high profile men are not men that I look up to. I'll just leave it at that.
My
And
my husband always says the bad advertises, you know,
yes, that's a
and
great, I like that. I
the
like
negative.
that.
Well, he always jokes with me at being in ministerial school. He's like, the devil advertises. Everybody's wondering where is God, and the devil advertises. So the
Absolutely.
negative is easy to be found, but the good, it is definitely there. I am blessed to, my husband well, and I am blessed to have a wonderful marriage. And unfortunately, not enough people talk about that. That there are good men, that there are, that honor women, that see the respect, that there is partnership out there in the world, and not enough people talk about that.
No, and what I've learned is in terms of the readership, the people who buy and read my book are primarily women. There are a few men, but that just seems to, I also think that women in general are more open to looking intentionally for ways to grow and resources than because we guys, we like to think we can and we need to do it all ourselves.
Well,
So
unfortunately, that's how we were taught. The men are supposed to, unfortunately, the old way of thinking was they were supposed to be able to, and fill in the blank, and women were supposed to, and fill in the blank. But there are no rules anymore. It doesn't work that way any longer. We're still playing as if it is, but we're hopefully, as a society, moving past that a little bit at a time.
well, the other thing that I see is when the affirmative action laws were passed at the federal level, um, I was very much in favor of that and supporting that and saw myself as being a woman's rights advocate. Um, and and so there was a lot of celebration around that, both for women, for people of color. And then, here's the difference between the head and the heart, or the head and the emotions. Then it began to dawn on me what that meant was I might not get hired because I'm a white guy. And this idea, it's one thing to talk about, oh yes, we're all about sharing power, but then when it comes to the only way we can share it is by giving some that we have wrongfully taken for ourselves and restoring it to where it belongs. There's an emotional reaction that I think often is below the level of consciousness. And
Yes.
I think that's what's behind a lot of inappropriate behavior on the part of a lot of white guys right now. There's this awareness that we don't run the show anymore. And it's hard to give up. And it's scary
And
to give up.
it's more than it was, but it's still it's not quite equal yet, but it's working in that direction. And there's a lot of resentment, there's a lot of unspoken fear, there's a lot of insecurity all around when it comes to that. So it's important to talk about it.
It is, and so that's why in the video course that I've put together, there's 7 different modules as we've talked about, and we can talk about more of them. But there's also a bonus module that I call a bonus module for men, or the man in your life.
I love that.
And they're basically three thoughts. One is to have a hero. Who do you look up to? Who do you model your life after? And for too many little boys and men, I think it stops with athletes or rich people. But in terms of how you live your life, who's your hero? Who do you want to grow up and be like in terms of integrity, in terms of values? And the next one is be a hero. As I said, every story needs a hero. I think we need to start by being the hero in our own story, the hero in our own lives, but also being the hero in the lives of other people, to be the one that steps in to make a difference for good. And then the last one I think is so powerful is, and remember it's okay to cry. Because so many men don't realize it's okay to cry. Almost every time I see a man being interviewed and they start to get emotional and tears well up, they hide their head and they apologize. I remember seeing a video of Tom Brady and somebody said, you're my hero, but who's your hero?
Oh, I love that.
And
Oh,
and Tom Brady started talking about his dad.
and he teared up.
And he teared up and he apologized. And guys do that. We think that if we cry, we've sort of violated some sort of social construct that we need to apologize for. We've let down masculinity instead of realizing that we've broadened and opened the door to the truth of what it means to be a man, and that is to be in touch with the tender part of ourselves, the part of ourselves that does tear up and feels powerful feelings besides lust. Or anger.
I remember that very vividly. Actually, I saw it again recently. It was a young boy had asked him that, and he said his and he did. He stopped himself from talking more about it because, and here it was. He was actually asked this of all places. It was Super Bowl week. Going into the Super Bowl, here's this person that the top of his career that got them there, and he can't even be himself and really speak because it's emotional and they're not supposed to be. And you're right. There's so much that we are as a society learning how to level the playing field at. So I'm going to ask you, who's your hero?
So you're one of my heroes.
Oh, you're cute. You're very sweet.
But that's the thing. Jack Canfield is one of my heroes. I can look at. I just started reading The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho. He's one of my heroes. He puts in story form some of these wonderful truth with a capital T. It's and for me, for something to be true, it has to be true everywhere, all the time, for everybody. There's not my truth and your truth.
And you feel it right in the core of your center.
You do.
You feel it. You don't just hear it. You don't just know it. There's a feeling in where your soul is. It just resonates.
Heather Cisco, who owns the gym that I go to, Fitness Adventure, she was my hero. She's half my age, but she saw in me what I didn't see in myself, and she's amazing at doing that for so many people. I was with somebody else not long ago, and they said, she makes you think you can do anything.
And those are the people to surround ourselves with.
Absolutely.
As we move into this new thought thing, if you're new here, stick around, because you will find yourself surrounded by people who know the truth about you. I use this background because you are Stardust. Each one is that Stardust and has that ability within them. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize, but
no,
yeah.
You're absolutely right. I read a study not long ago. We are the average of the 7 people we spend the most time with. Mm-hmm. And that's true for what we talk about. It's true for what we think. It's true for our income. It's true for our lifestyle. So, as kids, we're told, be sure you pick good friends. Well, there's a scientific reason for picking good friends. It's not just arbitrary. This is what we want for you, but whether we're adolescents or adults, we become the average of the 5 to 7 people that we hang around with the most.
My father used to say it a little less eloquently, and he used to say, "Show me who you hang with, and I'll show you what you are."
Yeah,
You're not
absolutely.
going to soar with the eagles when you're hanging with turkeys.
Yep,
So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
but you have to be honest. We get the opportunity to be honest with ourselves and to really say, well, am I getting the demonstration I want in life? Does it look like I want it to? And if not, what do I do with that?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really like about the Hero's Journey group that I meet with on Sunday night, because these are all guys that know that there's more to them and more to life, and it's about how do we inspire each other to become the best version of ourselves. Um, so that's another way to hang with people is by listening to podcasts like yours, by finding Zoom groups to join. Um, it doesn't have to be in person, although I think personally that's the best for me. It's the in
I'm
person.
looking forward to, as the weather gets warmer too, especially around here in general, being outside and being able to participate more in life. But I think people in general are doing it more anyway. I think everybody's tired of it all, and you know, good, bad, or indifferent. I think we're interacting a lot more again. We're trying to get life back.
We are trying to reconnect, and I think one of the things that COVID has demonstrated to us is how much we value being together, and being in person, and how much we value relationships that have not been possible the way they were prior. So I think that as we move through this into, whatever the next thing is, what life is going to be like. Because one of the things I just wrote a blog about is I see so many people, especially people my age, that are trying to remembering growing up in the 50s and 60s, and we're trying to recreate that life because it all felt so good and so innocent and so pure. And what we know about the law of creation is the law of creation never goes backwards. It's like trying to figure out how to make water run uphill. It just isn't going to happen. So we need to be intentional about what we are creating instead of wasting our time and energy trying to recreate something that just isn't going to be there. So as we move into this new, what do we want it to be like? In As we talk about in Science of Mind, creating a world that works for everybody, not just a world that works for me. Um, and I think that's been part of the struggle with COVID is I know what works for me, and I don't care what works for you. I want to work for me, and it's learning a lesson in no, it needs to work for everybody, not just me. Yes, it needs to work for me too, but we've got to figure out how it's going to work for everybody because we are in it together, and as we talk about in Science of Mind, and we're all one of us anyway. There is only one of us anyway.
It's been an interesting experiment, that's for sure, the past couple of years where it seems like so much againstness. And we know the oneness. We live in that oneness, and at the same time things had to break open to be healed. So evidently that had been lurking. I look at it as the underbelly of for a long time, and it had to be shown the light of day to be able to be healed. So there's opportunity in the ugliness to find something new out of it.
And you're right. It's great to be against something, but tell me what you're for.
Mm-hmm.
I think about the days when I had my little sailboat. They're 360 degrees in the compass. I cannot want to go one direction, but I have 359 other options.
Yes.
So tell me where, figure out where I want to go, and then I can get there. And life is so much more about trying to figure out where I want to go than where I don't want to go.
And on that note, I want to mention your 7 areas of life that you go through in your course. So while we're here, I just wanted your day, your thoughts, your actions. regrets, environment, goodness, and truth. So, the opportunity is to really be present in the 7 areas of life. And it's not outside, it's not an external thing. It is truly looking at me as me. And that's where the rubber hits the road, is really looking at that truth, that honest appraisal, and not judgment. It's witnessing. It's simply identifying, oh, that's red and I prefer it to be blue. It's not about anything. It's not saying that red is bad and that blue is right. It's simply just saying, I choose differently.
Right, right. And it's also one of the vignettes I have is about, are we asking the right questions? And what got me thinking about that was some work I was doing with some couples. And invariably, when somebody would come to me for couples counseling, they would come with a litany of things wrong with their partner. And I talk about, so what are you contributing to the dysfunction in the marriage?
Yeah.
And the idea is that, well, if they would just change all of this, it'd be fine. And I said, so let's say that they're 95% wrong. Just hypothetically, it's 95% them. What's the 5% that you can make better? Because that's where our power is. And instead of asking, what kind of partner do I have? What kind of partner am I? Am I being the kind of partner I would like to have? Am I being the kind of partner that my partner deserves to have? Am I being the hero in our relationship, or am I being the jerk?
In every opportunity, saying, what's the truth here?
Yes.
What's my side? So what's the truth here? The truth is, maybe they deserve to have their own opinion and they don't have to agree with me.
Absolutely.
Heaven forbid. Maybe the truth is that there is more to them than I realized. Not that it's bad, it's just different. So there's a lot of opportunity in those questions that we ask.
There is. And one of the other, one of my favorite books is called The Untrue Story of You. And the takeaway, I'll give you a quick summary of it. We have our past, we have our present, and we tend to think about our future. But to get to the true story of me, I have my past, I have my present, and I have my potential. So my future doesn't have to be determined by my past. It doesn't even have to be determined by my present. It can be determined by my potential. And that's where the power is.
And that is truly where you live from. And I am so grateful to know that and to have you here today to talk about that. And I know you're off to your next destination, and I'm so grateful to have you here. And I'm going to go through again how they can reach you, and I'm going to talk about the workshop again. But thank you so much for being here, and thank you for sharing that truth with us. And is there any final comments or anything that you want to share with us?
The last thing that I'll say is, for anybody that's watching this, if you want to reach out to me, I will offer a 30-minute coaching session free. Just Gina will give you the contact information. Go to my website. There's my email right there. Email me. We'll be in touch, and we'll set up a time and a free 30-minute coaching session, because I really am passionate about helping people move into their magnificence. Gina, thank you.
And I know you did with your own coach as well. You're not just suggesting this, that you too have a coach, and you've done that all along to be who you are. So, this is a person who absolutely walks the talk. So thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bary, and we will talk to you. We'll see you again soon.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Thank you so much. Be blessed. And, here on finding the joy in the journey, because that's the whole point. It's there. It's us finding it. it's so important to remember that we always have that opportunity. And I want to just remind you that you can join the Science of Success workshop is at 11:30. You can do a screenshot, or you can also, you can, it's, we are here on the network, New Thought Media Network. On Sundays, the Boston Center is here at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can see his message on New Thought Media Network, but that's not the workshop. So if you want to be for the workshop, reach out to us, and you can reach out to me, or you can reach out to Dr. Bary himself. Remember that his book is Move into Your Magnificence, and it is a wonderful, easy way to just be rekindled in the joy of and the possibility of, magnificence, that it is within you always. And remember that there's the new class as well that he has going. Your life, 28 ways to move from mundane to magnificent. And he also has his wonderful men's group that is available. So you can find more about it, drbaryfleet.com. And for your individual coaching session, if you'd like your own coaching session, you can email him at barry@drbaryfleet.com. So what a gift it is to have been with you here today. Know that you can reach me as well at any time. You can reach out to me on Facebook or CSL Greater Boston, Gina at cslboston.org. You can send me an email. I'd love to hear from you for topics, for, as even for guests, if there's people that you think belong on Finding the Joy in the Journey, please let me know. What brings you joy? I would love to hear it. For any questions, reach out to us and just let us know. I know that in this society of bigger, better, faster, more, that destination happiness often happens. Well, when I have this, when I've accomplished that. But joy is right where you are. And I encourage you to be in that place of joy. Know that it is always available to you, and that there are people that are able to help you bring that out. So remember, you can reach out to Dr. Bary Fleet. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to anyone that is on this network. We have so many people that are here to help you with that. And this platform itself is a gift. So I encourage you to go to ntmedia.org to donate. Again, it's ntmedia.org and click donate. It gives us the opportunity to put the good news out there in the world. And I thank you. I thank you for being here as part of this loving community. We are sending good news and good wishes out into the world, and amazing things are happening from it. So thank you. Thank you for being here with us today. I thank Dr. Bary for being here with us as a guest. And I wish you a week of blessings and joy. Namaste.